Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, Debo. How are you doing? Oh no, I've lost Debo already. Can you hear me, Debo? Just checking.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I think we lost you for a second there, but you're back with us. Okay, cool. Welcome everyone. Welcome to another Postman live stream, the last of the year. So it's going to be a bit of a specific one. But today, there's me. I'm Arlemi. I'm a developer advocate at Postman, and I'm based in London. And I'm here with Debo. Debo, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Debo. I'm a developer relations engineer at Postman. I work on the same team as Arlemi.
Nice. So, because it's the last stream of the year, as it says in the title, it's going to be a bit of a particular one. We're not going to do the typical, in case you missed it, then jump into just a single topic and then close it. We'll kind of go through of like have a look back of the year. So we split that in three parts. We'll first look back at the streams we've done. So we've done probably about like 40 plus streams this year. Yeah, probably a good number. We've been streaming for like 3 years now at Postman. So we'll kind of look back at a few of them. So Debo has done some, I've done some, other people in the team have done some. So if you've been following us for a while, you might remember some of them. Then we'll have a look at Postman features that have been released in 2022. And the main big thing was Postman V10. So we'll chat a bit about that. We'll give a quick demos of some of these features. And then we'll just finish with like sharing some. We'll talk about the books that have been released by Postman. We'll talk about the state of API survey, this type of stuff. And throughout, we'll have a few quizzes. So if you're in the chat, just say hi so we know how many people we have, and then how many quizzes we should do. So we do some giveaways. So anyone who replies correctly to these questions will get a chance to get something from the Postman store, and we do that like throughout the live streams. Okay, so we have I might butcher that username, but we have Stawas Dela, not sure. So we have some people here. How does that sound, Debo?
Yeah, sounds interesting. Sounds fun.
Okay, good. It's good to know my co-host finds that interesting. Okay, so let's. So you've joined Postman. When did you join Postman?
I joined Postman, I think May this year. So I've been around for a couple of months.
Okay. Yeah, a good amount of months. And you've done. how many live streams have you done?
This should be my third live stream.
Okay,
Um, yeah, the third one.
cool. So you're already familiar with like the different type of live streams we have. Can you
Mhm.
mention a few?
Yeah, so we have like the Postman Live, where we have like how we built it, where we talk about um, how we built like certain features that a lot of people like find useful in Postman. Aside from how we built it, we have blindfold challenge, where we challenge other people at Postman to work on a certain interesting project or build something really interesting with Postman. And so it's always like very fun because like the person you're challenging doesn't really know what you're going to challenge them to build, and then you just like throw it at them and just walk them through like the process.
Yeah, I think you did one of them with Ian, right?
Yeah, I did one of them with BN.
Yeah, I got
And I think how we built it I always like very fun because then we get to like talk to like engineers that worked on like key features and get to like understand their thought process, how they went about the development process and all of that.
yeah, and so a few examples of how we built what we've done. So we've done how we build support for gRPC in Postman. We've done one about how Postman is using like Electron.js, like the JavaScript framework, and then like a couple other ones on like Postman Flows, etc. And then for like the blindfold, as you mentioned, right? Like it's someone challenges someone else on something they don't know about. It's basically like, oh, let's build this, and then you just go ahead and try to build it. So you've been on the side of the person that challenges others. I'm usually on the other side because for some reason people like to challenge me to do things. Um, and whenever I get challenged, people just always go with like an API that uses OAuth 2.0 because they know I hate it. But that's it. It's always like I think we all get a lot from that. So we usually try to use like an API from a partner, and they get. So for example, we did one where we used the Amadeus API recently. So this one was like trying to book your own holiday um, using the Amadeus API. So the Amadeus API is a travel like flights and hotel one. We did one with like the Twitter API. We did one with like the Spotify API, etc. And that leads us to like the third type of live streams that we have, which is the partners one. So we've also like we try to get partners on the stream, partners or like users to do different things. So we've had like PayPal, Stripe, Cypress, etc. But as I'm talking about all this, I'm going um, to share quickly a link to our YouTube channel so we all know what we're talking about. So let me share my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see our YouTube channel. So for anyone who's watching this live stream now or like maybe later in VOD, video on demand, if you go to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/postman, you can go to the playlist and you'll find the Postman Live 2022 playlist, and that contains like all of the live streams uh, from this year. Then we have like a different place for each year. But then, so here you see like some blind phone challenges. So for example, this one is using Twilio. You'll see some how we built it for gRPC support, for example, and then all of the like trying to build things. For example, this one we have a game in Postman, or more of a game you can play using Postman. Let me just mute that, which is this little UI, and we spent a live stream kind of building up on this, and then you have these little characters that like pop up on the map, and you can move them around. Did you play that one, Debo?
No, I haven't played it yet, but I've seen like some part of like that live stream and it's really fun.
Yeah, so we wanted to play this one today, but we just realized before the live stream that Heroku kind of changed their pricing model and they turned off most of the apps, including this one that was running on Heroku. So unfortunately, we can't play it. But it's fine. We'll find other things to do. No, let me not spoil the questions that we'll get later. um, And then what else have we done? So you've actually played yourself with collection converters. I can share this if you want. So let me go. This one. Can you remind me the name of the workspace that it's in?
The workspace should be Postman to collection. Um,
This one?
if
Oh, this one. Oh, wait.
no, just a minute. I'm not sure.
No. Was it in the public workspace? Do you
Yeah, it's
remember?
a public workspace.
Okay. Just trying to remember. This one?
Uh, no, it's not this one.
Uh-huh.
Trying to find it. No.
Remember the name of a collection.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't take note of the name of it.
So I have this one, which has like Postman to Markdown, Postman to Open API,
Yeah,
Postman
it's
to
that one.
Swagger. Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's that one.
So you did a live stream with
That's it.
this one.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to talk a bit
So,
about like the what these different collections do, and what you did during the live stream?
yeah, so for this one, we wanted to like show how you can take um, a Postman collection and convert it to an open API definition, or how you can take a Postman collection and convert it to Markdown, or how you can take Postman collection and convert it to JMeter and use that for performance testing. So each of these collections sort of like show code to convert like a Postman collection to an Open API definition, and then you can take that Open API definition and use it to do like other interesting stuff like code generation, or probably import it back in your API builder, or any other interesting thing you might want to do with like the API definition.
Nice. Sorry, I got distracted because we had a question in the meantime from Sam who's saying, so this is just an office hour stream. Um, it's not quite an office hour. We do have like some stuff planned, as in like we'll talk about what was released in the during the year and what we've done, etc. But as any other stream, right? Like if you have any questions on Postman, do ask them because we have Postman open and we're ready to demo pretty much anything. Hopefully. Um, so yeah, it's part of this hour and part demo. But one of the things you talked about is converting between different format, and that's kind of fits in like where Postman like evolved in 2022. It kind of opened to a lot of other like format or protocols, etc. And that's one of the things that we're going to see in the next section. So are you ready to move on to like the product updates?
Yeah, sure. Um, so for some of like the product updates that we have, um,
So
I
I,
think
I
there's
can
like a
actually
couple of them. We have like,
let me do.
sorry, were you saying something?
I was gonna open the blog and check the VLAN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, that was. I guess that's the start, and I'm mentioning that as start of the live stream. Postman V10 is the big thing we released in 2022, right? And that's kind of what drove the rest of the updates for the rest of the year. So Postman V10 was a big piece of it, and it contains. Let me just put this here. Contains many things from like native Git support, gRPC, so different protocol support, private workspaces, etc. But we did have like some side releases that may have been, I wouldn't say under the radar because we definitely have a lot of people using them, but that may be lesser known. And one of them is Postman Flows. So I don't know if anyone on the chat has heard of Postman Flows, but let's see if we can give you a demo. Do you want to try sharing your screen, Debo, and we'll see if that works?
Yes. So
So
let me
just
share
full
my
disclaimer,
screen.
we've had some issues with screen sharing right before. So if that doesn't work, we'll have to revert.
So can you see my screen?
Yeah, I think we have the same issue. You should probably stop sharing. That's not working.
Okay, share. Okay, so I just stopped sharing.
Okay. Let's see if I can remove it. Cool. So, Sam's actually saying, funny day work for the first time today with Postman. Turned it to learn anything I can. So that's probably the best stream you could have found because, like, most of the streams we do, we take a specific topic and we just dive into it. This one is going to be about the journey of like Postman this year. So the different things that were added. Um, Debo, you might want to leave and join again because I think. Uh, no. Okay. There you
Okay.
are. So I'll go ahead and talk about the different features. Let me move this around so we have space. Um, so I'll move on to Postman, and I mean one of my it's called the Postman team. It's a demo team. So if you've not been using Postman before, when you log in, once you're like logged into your account, first you can use Postman in your browser. There's an app, but there's also like the browser version, and they're like pretty much one to one in terms of features, unless you're like a very advanced user. And then you've got your overview, so you've got like the different things you visited recently. You can access workspaces, you can explore either like public APIs that are available, or you can access your private API network, the partner one, etc. I'm going to move to my personal workspace, and we're going to do some demos in there. Let me zoom in a bit so that everyone can see. Okay, so hopefully that's big enough. Let me see. Sam saying, have downloaded the app since the org I'm currently working with wanted me to do some tests. Well, Postman. So if I go further back in Postman's story, Postman started as an API testing tool. Then it moved into an API collaboration platform, and now it's just an API platform, and it covers like many things. But at its core, it's always been for testing. So it's definitely the right tool to use for testing your API. Um, and you're mentioning a free code camp course. I think I know which one you're talking about, and that's a very good start to get started. So let me bring Debo back in. There we go. He's back.
Yeah, for some reason, I got logged out of like all of my accounts, including Restream. I think that was SSO. Um,
Uh-oh.
so I
Oh
had to
well.
just like re-authenticate everything, including Postman. Like,
Okay, you're
not
back.
sure how that happened. Yeah,
So let's
but that
let's
was
not
great.
have you share your screen again in case it breaks everything. I guess you just have to chime in when I'm doing my demo, and you can bring some
Mhm.
knowledge on top of it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, this is my workspace. There's a few things on the left you can see. There's collections, APIs, environment, etc. Collections are just like a way to store. Just they're a way to store like requests and organize them. But they're also like the foundation of everything else in Postman. So like a collection is what you're going to use to run a mock server. A collection is what you're going to use to run a monitor, even for flows. And flows is one of
Mhm.
these features that is like lesser known. So
Mhm.
for those of you who are doing testing, etc., if you're wondering what flows is, I'm gonna go ahead and search for example flows. So this at the top is like the universal search, we call it. So you can search anything in Postman, and all of the ones that have this little like globe thing are like public collections. So I'm gonna go to this one, which is a public workspace. I'm gonna go in the flows tab, and one of the things I can do. So this one is a public one. I did not create that. I can go ahead and fork things. So I can click on fork, bring it to my workspace, and then I can start working with it. So I didn't have to create anything. I'm just taking someone else's work, and then I can start working with it, which is, great way to do things. So, do you wanna quickly explain what Flows is? I think it's probably easier with that view.
Yeah, I mean, Flows is like a visual way of developing APIs. It's a visual programming language for APIs where you have like this human-like interaction to building a program. So everything is sort of like divided into code blocks. You have like code blocks for logic. You have code blocks for executing requests. You have code blocks for like passing data. So it just gives you like this no code visual way of interacting with the APIs you already have in your collection, your public workspaces, and all of these different things. So you have like this canvas where you could just drag and drop blocks, and you
Yeah,
could just connect one block to another to plus data. So data is sort of flowing from one block to another, which makes sense because it's called flows.
nice. So yeah, this one is a pretty simple example of it. You can see it's very linear. So we always have a start. So that's where your flow starts. That triggers this send request. So that's going to send a request to dog breeds. And then what it's going to do, it's going to just extract so you can see the body response here. So we're going to grab the message and we're going to log that in the console. So it's pretty understandable for even non-technical people. And if I run this now, you maybe did not notice, but there was like a few dots moving around, so you can see the data coming by. I can now open my console and I can see the different like grids here.
Yeah, I think that's like the thing I like most about flows. Just by looking at the flow, it's intuitive, and you're able to like tell exactly what is happening and what is running and exactly where it is just by saying that little dot, moving around all of the different code blocks.
Okay, so you said it's intuitive. Let's go for one that is a bit less intuitive, or maybe just a bit more complicated, and we can see if it's actually intuitive. So, if you've been working with APIs, chances are you've been using an API that has pagination. So, pagination is if you're calling an endpoint that has more than X results, instead of sending you like all of it in one go and maybe making like a very huge response, we'll send we'll paginate them. So we'll have 50 response in the first page. Then we'll send you a link to the second page. You go to the second page, you get to the next ones. So is this zoomed in enough so you can explain what's happening, or do you want me to do it?
Um, I think I'd leave you to like to the
Okay.
explanation because you probably need to like zoom a
Yeah.
bit more for me to see what's going on clearly.
Okay. So what this one is doing, so there's a start button here, and we're going to call the Pokemon API. So what this endpoint does, just gets all of the Pokemon. So there used to be very few when I was a kid. Now apparently there's like hundreds and hundreds of them. So we have pagination. So you can see um, we have a limit of 200 per page. So what we're going to do, calling this, as long as there's a next as part of the response, and that's usually what we use for telling you this is the next page of my API response. We're going to keep on going. So we keep on looping. So this should go. Let me zoom back out. Um, so if it has a next in the body, if it's true, we loop back and we keep sending that same request, but with the new value. So the next page is going to be 1, then 2, then 3, etc. Incremental. If it's false, then we stop the execution. But as we go, we always like output the results to the console. So if I execute this, we'll see a lot of dots going around, hopefully. So you can see it starts from here. Um, and then with the color next to the name, you can see what's being executed when. So I'm also like pretty happy with this. And then in the console, you can see outputted the first page, then the second page, third page, etc., all the way to this one, which is the last one. And you can see there's not more, like no more 200 per page, but only 154 because that was the last one. And these names are like, I have no clue what these Pokemons are. I'm too old for this, I think. Okay, so that's flows. Hopefully, we convince you that there's a reason to use it, or maybe you've seen a use case for you. But if you want to get access to it, let's send you a link for that. So you can get early access to this. All you have to do is go to that page, this page, sign up for it with your Postman account, and then you'll get access in the next few days. So I'm going to post that in the chat. And if you're interested, just go there and get access. I'm going to put that on the screen. Okay, what else did we have that was new, Debo?
We also have Postman CLI, which also came out like with the V10 release. And Postman CLI allows you to run your collections on the command line. It's very similar to Newman. I know a lot of people are probably familiar with Newman. Newman is an open source command line tool. You can use it to like run collections in your command line or in your continuous integration pipeline, which a lot of people use it for. Besides like using this run collections on the command line, you could also like use Newman as a library within your code to run your collections. But then there's now Postman CLI, which is similar to Newman, but Newman is open source and Postman CLI isn't open source, right? And Newman is like distributed as NPM, but Postman CLI is distributed as a downloadable package, which means you have to like install it on your terminal. And because it's distributed as a downloadable package, it is also signed by Postman by default. So you don't have to like worry about security or anything of that sort.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, you can use
Okay,
Postman CLI to like run your collections from the command line, and
so I'll do a
it's
quick
nice to get that.
I'll do a quick demo of the flow of like someone who would be testing in Postman. I think that might be relevant to some people in the chat. So I'll create a new collection. It's going to be like test collection, and it's going to have a request called get. Well, we can stay on the Pokemon theme. So for this one, I'm going to use the Postman Eco API. So that's one that just returns whatever you send to it. So it's going to be named Pikachu. So now I'm setting this. Have a response with okay, cool. So have a name that comes back with the value Pikachu. So if you're testing in Postman, the first thing you do when you test is you do exactly what I just did. Send the request, and then you use your eyes. You click around, and you're like, okay, I can see it's 200. I can see the response contains Pikachu. Very nice. Uh, but maybe you want to, instead of having, it may make sense when your response is so short, but let's say your response is like hundreds of line of 200s of line long. You might want to make it easier, and you can use tests for this. So for example, we have some pre-created ones here. So I'm just going to cheat a bit and do this. I can say, oh, I expect the response to have status code 200. So that's one. And then I'll use this one. And it's going to be name should be Pikachu. So this one is going to go and check in the response that a specific value is what I want. So here in this line, I'm creating a variable which is going to contain my response. And then I'm going to expect my response dot args dot name. So that's my response dot args dot name to equal, should be a string that says Pikachu. So if all goes well, I have two tests that are passing. Okay. And then now I don't need to like go and hover on things and see what's happening. All I have to do is go to that tab and see that my tests are passing. Right. So that's good start. That's when we go to like what Debo mentioned, which is the Postman CLI. Once you're done with all of your tests here, ideally you're not going to have a single endpoint. You're going to have like tons of endpoints that you're testing for your APIs. What you can do, you can run the collection. So that's going to take all of your endpoints. In my case, only one, and you can run that. But you've got these two other options. So one of them is the automate runs via CLI. So that's using the Postman CLI, as Debo mentioned. So I can get an API key. I'm not going to do that because it's going to show on screen, and I don't want you to have an API key. But then it gives me that command, and I can just run that in maybe using Circle CI, Travis CI, any I don't know, kind of any place where you can run Postman CLI, you can run that. So maybe you're using it in your CI/CD workflow when you deploy. Test your API. If something breaks, then you can stop the deployment and you can like go and fix your errors. The other one is this one. Do you want to talk about this one quickly, Debo?
Yeah, for the scheduled runs, it allows you to periodically run your collection in the cloud. So you can, let's say you have like a couple of tests that you've written and you want to make sure that your test is always passing, and you want to set up like monitoring um, for the different like APIs that you have in this collection. You can make them run at a specific interval, probably every hour or every day, or at a specific time every week. And Postman is going to automatically run all the requests you have in this collection at the interval at which you specify. And then if a test is failing, you're going to get an email notification notifying you that something is wrong with your API and you need to fix it. If your test is passing, you're going to have you're also going to
Screen.
get an email that tells you that your test is passing, and you can come to like this graph to see the latency of your different requests. You can know how long each of them took to run. It sort of shows you a latency graph of everything, which is like pretty cool.
Yeah. So you actually don't get an email when it passes. Otherwise, you would get too many emails. You get an email when it fails, and then I could I can try and break it, but then I would leak my emails, which is probably not a good idea. But yeah, so you get that view. I've made
Mm-hmm.
it run every hour, so we're not gonna wait another hour for it to run again. So that's why I'm like triggering it manually. But that's how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can see like the response time. You can see all the levels are green, which is very cool. If something were to fail, I would be able to see it here. But I can also imagine you've had a monitor running for like I don't know, like maybe a year or something. You can always go back and see like the different times where something happened and something failed. So it's called scheduled collection runs. You can find them if you click on your collections. You can see your runs here. So this is going to contain all the scheduled ones, and then in this tab you've got the past runs. So that's when you run your collection manually. So if I just go here and run the collection manually, now if I go back to the collection, have past manual runs, past scheduled runs, and if I were to use the Postman CLI, I would also get my runs here. So now that becomes your like um, central point of knowledge for all of your collection runs, whether it is in your CI/CD, scheduled, manual, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the cool thing about scheduled runs is you don't have to have like a desktop application or your Postman web opened. So even if you have them closed, your collections are still going to run in Postman Cloud, and you'd still be able to see the run results when you come back.
so this was pretty much on the. We have a question from one of our Postman Supernovas. Scheduled runs versus monitors difference, please. That's a great question, actually. So it's a scheduled runs is kind of like you just take your collection and you run it on a schedule. Monitors, we want that to evolve in the future. Currently, the difference is not huge. The main difference is schedule runs are in your flow, right? As you keep on adding runs, etc., you run your collection and you'll figure it out that I can actually schedule them. Monitors was a bit disconnected in the journey of a tester, so we really wanted to like fit that in the flow. But I'm actually going to link to a blog here, which I think probably would be more helpful than my automation, my explanation, not automation. And then there you go. Seeing more and more good questions coming in. So that's a blog that explains like what is scheduling collection runs. But the point is, we want that to be very, very much. This is actually a collection that's run on a schedule, and monitors may evolve in the future. So Sam is saying he's doing, or they're doing a post request. Kept running to well, literally running the first post request in my orgs app. Didn't find much help on it. Okay, so what Sam is doing is using variables. So, for example, here you can see I'm using Postman Eco, which is a URL. But if I were to reuse that in different places, what I can do is I can select that, set as variable, and say, okay, so I'm going to create a variable that's URL, and I'll put it in my collection variable. So now I have a variable, and it resolves because I have a variable that's defined. So this is still going to work. It's still going to go to the right place. But if I were here, and if I were to like remove this one, now this is going to fail, and this is going to give me that error. So this is exactly what you're getting, Sam. So I'm assuming the issue you have is that variable, so endpoint for you, is not defined. So you would need to find, if you hover on it in Postman, you'll see that message. So chances are, maybe you're not using the correct environment. So if you go to your environments tab, there's likely a few things here. So make sure that maybe one of them is not using, has the variable, you've not selected it or something. But yeah, that's the issue you have. You have an unresolved variable. If you can't figure it out, just completely remove it and just write your actual URL directly. It's not the best practice, but that's what's going to unblock you the fastest if you can't figure out where that variable was coming from. Okay, so let me put back the variable. So actually I see you just said it does say unresolved variable. Could that be the reason why? Yeah, it is the reason why. We have more questions. Any suggestions on doing load test using Postman collection? You can use Newman to do so Newman Postman collection load testing. I think there's a few, for example, this video from Valentin, which is one of our power users, and there's a few other ones that are explaining how to do it. We don't recommend doing load testing in Postman. It's not designed for it. But you can use Newman, which is a collection runner for Postman collections to do load testing. So that was the question from Navia. And then before, so many questions. Before we move on to, these aren't any environments when importing the app into my workspace. So if there was no environment, chances are that you need to also import an environment, or the variable was defined at the collection level. So in my case, you can see, so I'm in my request. If I go at the collection level, there's a variables tab, and then you have it here. So if it's not there, what you can do, you can just create it yourself. So yours was endpoint, so create an endpoint variable, and then give it your org.com or whatever like your organization is called. There. Cool. Let's see. Debo, do you feel like taking that last question from Navia?
One more doubt. I wrote tests, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes the results are showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes 1, 3, 2, 4, 5. Very few times this random results showing. So you wrote a couple of tests and the results are showing up randomly as opposed to the order in which you want them to show up. Um, And so here, I'm not sure why, because the tests are run according to how they are declared here. So I'm not sure why it is going
So
to.
yeah, I'm wondering, maybe do you have some tests that are like calling something else, and that
Or
are like asynchronous? Because that might be the reason why. And then um, one option, one option for this, and that's actually a recommendation for anyone that's here. For this type of question, we have the perfect workspace for you. So if you go on Postman and search for Postman Answers, so this is a public workspace that contains like collections that show how to do uh, common workflows in Postman. So there's many things, and one of them is async operations. So in that case, for Nadia, they're looking to have their tests running always in the same order. So that would be series. So you want everything to run in a series. And then if you go here, you can see. So it's on my screen. It looks a bit small because I'm zoomed in a lot. Um, so it's pretty advanced just because there's a lot of comments, but it shows you how to see exactly. So if you wanted to run like this in order, um, you can call async series your different rails and just making sure that it runs that way. And then like this. So this is a lot of information just there. But when you want to play with it, the point of this is instead of starting from scratch, what you can do, you can go, so again, search for Postman Answers, find that collection, and then again, you can forward it. So you can see there's already like 170 people that had the same questions than you. So you can fork that, bring it to your workspace, and then you have your own version that you can start playing with, edit, etc. So if I do this, it's going to do. So it's running different delays. So 1 second, 3 seconds, and 2 seconds. So this is going to take like 5 seconds to come back. But yeah, that's there you go. Ah, well, perfect. Solves my problem. Let me.
yeah,
Good question. I will share the link. And that's the link to the Postman Answers public workspace. Might be relevant to most people. Okay, so you've asked us a lot of questions. So we're going to ask you a question now. Um, so we're not gonna. Oh, let's do Slido. So what have we talked about? We've talked about. Let me quickly remove my screen. I just want to make sure that I'm asking you questions that you're able to answer. As a reminder, whoever gets. Actually, do you want to talk about that while I check the responses, Debo?
okay. So like just like an overview of some of the things we talked about. We talked about the Postman Live and like different live streams programs that we have. Our Build It, Blindfold Challenge, the one with partners. We also talked about some of like the product updates we have. We talked about the V10 updates that we had. We talked about integrations. We talk about Postman CLI, partner workspaces. Alemi did a very cool demo with Postman Flows. Um, then for the game, you go to slido.com and scan the QR code on the screen, or you use this code. When you go to slido.com, it's going to prompt you to enter a code, so you can either scan this QR code or input this code, and then it's going to ask you a couple of questions, and then you provide correct answers, and whoever provides the correct answer the fastest will get to win a giveaway from us. So I believe I'll let it like disclose what the price for the giveaway is going to be.
So for the let me make sure that we have the right thing set up. So for the price, we just be giving away Postman swag. So it can be socks, it can be a cup, it can be a bottle, etc. But yeah, so this one is a small crew, and this is very much just to celebrate the end of the year. So we want to give you a chance to win some. Um, So we'd have 3 times 2 questions. So 3 times you get a chance to win. You can't win twice. So let's say you win the first time, then you're not gonna win the second one, but you can still take part in it. So people are joining. How do I see who's joining?
Yeah, I think it showed up on your screen
Ah,
just a couple of seconds ago.
so for those of you who are wondering how
And it
to join,
went
you
up.
can either
Yeah.
scan this. So it will prompt you if you've joined the room, you're at the right place. I'm going to be prompting the questions. So you can see here, I can like activate the polls. So get ready for the questions. I'm just gonna wait for. I don't know how I can see who's in the room. I'm just gonna assume people have joined and ask the questions. Okay, so first question is, how many users are on Postman? So now if you've opened the link, you should have the thing on your phone or maybe on your PC or whatever. But you can start answering, and hopefully people are getting the right answer.
Yeah, people have started submitting their answers.
Okay, we have 8 people. Let me do duplicate and open this here just so I can see what's happening.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to see how many of you and how many we're waiting on. Okay, cool. So I think everyone has voted now. So I'm gonna stop this one, and then I'm gonna play the second one, which is how old is Postman, or when was Postman created? So it can be maybe Postman is just. I know some of you started using Postman today, so maybe it was created yesterday. Maybe Postman is a year old. Maybe it's between 5 and 15 years, which is 5 and 15 years is a pretty wide gap. More than 15 years, maybe. Or let's see what we have. Okay, so I'm just checking that everyone has answered.
Let's see what people think.
Okay, so I actually forgot to show the correct answer on the previous one, so I'm going to start with this one. The correct answer with this one is, do you know, Debo? You probably know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
Postman is just a year old.
Just
But
well, somehow I've been working here 3 years, so what was I doing for the 2 first years? Yeah.
you're setting things up for the development of Postman.
So
So
Postman,
it's between 5 and 15 years. So Postman started off in 2012, and it's
So for those of you who don't know how Postman started, so Postman started 10 years ago as wait, I need to. You can still answer. Okay, so it started 10 years ago. But if you do Postman Stack Overflow, and if you sort by, let's see, how do I sort with most high score? Huh.
you're searching for Abhinav's post on
Yeah.
Stack Overflow. Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's the one. Yeah, there we go. So that's how Postman started, pretty much. In 2012, our CEO just went to Stack Overflow, replied to an answer saying, "Oh, I've been making this small Chrome app called Postman to test your API." So it started from there, and now so we have, and that's where we go to the second part, which is let me prompt this.
How many users?
Yeah, we have more than 20 million users. So we started from Stack Overflow post 10 years ago, and now we're more than 20 million users, and we are streaming. Oh, people are changing their answers. No. Okay, I need to
Can
learn how
people
to
do
use
that?
Slido. Okay, that's how.
So
Okay, now
people
you
can
can't vote
change
it.
their answers.
Yeah, I've blocked it now, so people can't do it anymore. Okay, so now let me do. Um, let me find something that Debo can talk to you about while I figure out who won. Uh, so Debo actually, so this one is not going to be. So I see some good comments. Um, like going to be tuning in as many Postman streams. I love Thursday sessions. It's very good to hear. We love doing these sessions as well. Um, Now, please bear with us. We're going to talk about something that's mm, might be relevant to you, might not be relevant, but we're going to talk about governance in API. So let me pull up the right article, and then there we go. And while Debo talks to you about this, I'm going to be figuring out who won. Okay, Debo, what is governance? Why does it matter?
Well, API governance just like pretty much just a set of rules that you put in place that enables you build more consistent and performant APIs in general. So it's an approach to like developing APIs where um, you um, where you have like a uniform behavior across the entire like development process of the API. So if you have like an API definition, you have like a set of different rules that guides how the different how the API definitions is authored, um, design structure of your API definition, and pretty much just I don't want to like use the word pretty much you governing your APIs because it's an incremental approach to just um, because it's an incremental approach to just you putting like different rules and guidelines in place that helps you work easily across like API development lifecycle. So in V10 we had like a set of like different updates to um, how you do API governance in Postman in V10. So in V10, you can do things like offer LinkedIn rules in Spectral for your API definition. And when I talk about LinkedIn rules, you can think of them as um, the same way you probably write LinkedIn rules for your code. If let's say you probably use something like ESLinks, for example, and you want to put in paradigms in place where you say, okay, Vice deprecated in our code base. You should use this design paradigm over like this design paradigm. You shouldn't use awaiting for loops, something like that. Where you sort of like declare the different like sort of LinkedIn rules for your code. You can do the same for your API definition using Spectra in Postman now. So you can define like LinkedIn rules for your API definitions, and it just helps you like put guidelines in place and ensures that everyone that is altering it an API definition is like conforming to like some of like the rules and guidelines that you have set up, which is like pretty cool.
Okay, I kind of missed the beginning of your explanation because I was trying to figure something out. But what I can see on the chat is that I think people understood. That's another way to see it, right? Like it's design guidelines or design, like it's helping with your design phase. So now that I'm back in, how does it show? How does it like show in Postman? So we've kind of, I guess when we showed like the journey of a tester, that's very much like the consumer workflow. So you're using APIs and you want to test them. What Debo is talking about is the producer side of things. So you're producing an API, you want to make sure it's a quality API. So in Postman, if you create an API, as we say, so you start from blank. So I can create a definition and start from scratch. I can use a boilerplate. From here, so you mentioned like linting with Spectral. If you have any
Mhm.
rules that are defined and anything that breaks these rules, then you get alerts here, and it's going to do it. So, for example, maybe I remove the description, and one of my linking rule was governance rule was all APIs need to have a description. If that was the case, then I would get an alert here. And now that makes sure that any API that's produced by my company has a description. Am I correct?
Yep,
Okay, cool.
that's very correct.
Cool. So now, the good news is we've shared governance with you. The bad news is there's actually no way for me to know who was the fastest one to answer on Slido. So I can't say who won. So that's not great. Probably should have tested that before. So for the next one, and I'm going to run it right now, we just ask you to reply on the chat, and then we can just see who's the fastest. I think that's the best way. So let me have a look at which questions I'm going to ask you. Okay, so let's go here. Oop. Let me actually. Do you want to? Let me stop sharing, and then Debo is going to ask you this series of questions. Debo, I'm going to send them to you on Slack. And then okay, so this one, and then this one that you can ask, and I'll be monitoring the chat.
Yeah.
And I was just told in my earplug that we can also win hoodies. So whoever gets the
Yay.
So we have 2 questions for this one. Because I failed on the previous one, I will pick 2 winners. So the 2 first ones, Debo is going to ask a question. The first one to answer the first question gets to win a hoodie. And the first one to answer the second question also gets a hoodie. So be ready, be on your keyboard, be on the chat. Okay. Debo, it's your time.
Okay, so the first question is, are you guys ready? Which one of this is not a live stream type hosted by Postman? First option I have here is blindfold challenge. So you're just going to type the one that is correct. When I read it out, when I read out the options, you don't type yes or no. But when I read it out, the one that is correct, you type it out in the comment section.
Incorrect.
Yeah. So the first one is, the question is, which one of this is not a live stream type we host? The first one is blindfold challenge. The second one is how we built it. And the last one is intergalactic. So which is it?
Yes. Okay. So the question is on the screen. Which one of these 3 options is not a type of live stream we do on the Thursday live streams? Which one of these is not a live stream?
You have to type the correct answer.
No, I mean, yeah. You have to type which one is not a live stream type, just to be clear. Okay, and we have a winner. And the winner is Marvis. The correct answer was intergalactic. So it was a trick question, and apparently we tricked most of you, because the question is about this Thursday live streams. This Thursday live streams is, so we do how we built it. We talked about it at the start. For example, we talked about how we built Postman Flows, or how we built. Fair enough. It was not clear. It was not very clear. We tried to get it clearer for the next question. How we built support for gRPC, and then let me prompt the question again, just so you have it. Blindfold challenge is when we have someone that comes in and gets challenged by someone else in the team to build something. So, like, for example, booking a holiday, creating a meal planner using APIs, etc. Intergalactic is not a live stream from the Thursday. Intergalactic is sessions we do once a month, and it's like an hour long on a specific topic to win something. So, Marvis, please send us a DM on Twitter. So our Twitter is at GetPostman. And then once we have you there, we'll ask you for your details, etc., and we'll arrange that. So for the next question, let me just prep the question quickly so we can prompt it at the same time.
Okay.
It's going to be the same type of question. We have 3 options. One of them is not correct. And what we want in the chat is the answer that's not correct.
Not correct. So fastest fingers.
Okay, you go.
Yeah. Okay. So we have like different programs that developers from can join to help promote API literacy. I mean, we have like a community of over 20 million developers, and some of these developers help us to like promote API literacy. So we have like different programs that we host where you can join to help promote API literacy. So which of this is not one of the programs that we host to promote API literacy? Yeah, so type the incorrect one. The first one is Postman Ambassadors. The second one is Postman Supernovas. While the third one is the Postman Students Program. So which of this program isn't a Postman program?
Does not exist.
Postman Ambassadors.
Wow.
Postman Supernovas.
That was
and
fast.
Postman Students Program.
I mean,
Supernovas, Postman
there we
Ambassador.
go. We already have a winner.
How come no one is speaking Postman Student Program?
I guess everyone knows about Postman Student Program. So we already have a winner. The good answer was Postman Ambassador. And yeah. So, bit of context. And for this one, I'm going to share my screen again. Postman Supernovas is a program that we run that is, let's say you're maybe a professional, you're doing testing within your company, or maybe you're someone who's doing like just interested in APIs as a whole. You can join Postman as a supernova. So we actually have some supernovas on the chat, and we have some that are like doing events for Postman. We have some that are creating content, etc. But you get access to Postman employees directly. We give you support in running events. We'll help you promote these events, and we'll also give you content that you can use to promote API literacy around the world. So that's the Postman Supernova program, and this one is for the wider community, and usually if you're a professional. The other program we have is the Postman Student Program, and this one, it's kind of in the name. If you're a student, you can join that program, and the same way that the Supernovas do around the world, you can do this at your campus level. So you can become a student expert, which is a quick certification just to make sure that you know what an API is, how it works, how to test an API. And then you can become a student leader, and then you become the de facto person to ask API questions to in your university or campus, etc. The Postman Classroom program is for teachers, and so we provide teacher kits to these teachers who want to teach their students about APIs. So these are the 2 ones that are existing. So yeah, we had a winner early on. Chen Mohammed, please send a DM as well to Postman. So Postman's account is at GetPostman on Twitter. Send us a DM, and I'll be looking there, and I'll be waiting for a DM from you. Cool. So we recovered a bit from not being able to tell who was the fastest to answer. Now we don't have much time left, so I'm going to move on to the last part of the stream, which is other things that we've created throughout the year that we think may be relevant for you to live with. So let me go back to here. Demo, do you want to give a quick overview of the state of the API and what it is? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah. So the state of the API report is a yearly report that Postman publishes on exactly like what it reads, the state of like the API. So we want to understand how people are interacting with APIs across like multiple regions all across the world. And Postman has like a community of 20 million developers. So we could like make use of all of those data to try to understand how people are interacting with APIs to get like key findings or key insights from like their interaction with APIs. Um, and from like the state of the API report, I think it was interesting that we find out that a lot of people are spending more times on API from at least from like the 2022 report compared to like 2021. Um, so there's a link to the state of the API report in the comment section. It's just shows like the different demographics of people using API across the world, the amount of like people consuming APIs, how much time they're spending with APIs, the kind of APIs they're consuming, why API design is like important and like a top skill in the API industry today. It talks about like 6 different key findings. Talks about like the toolings people are using across API development. Talks about the different technologies people are using to collaborate and build APIs. Uh, so yeah, the report is like very comprehensive. It contains a lot of key insights and different kinds of like data that you're going to like find really fascinating if you're interested
In
in
APIs.
the API economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have like so along with these 6 key findings, we have a partner blog uh, from our CEO that's also like going through some of the key findings from it. But yeah, I've linked the state of the API in the chat if you are interested. Um, in the meantime, I see we already have like a few questions in the chat. So, as we said, it's also office hour. So let's look at these questions. So Navia is looking for these informations for their PPT. Perfect. Just have at it. Do some screenshots, put it in there. And then we have Youssef who's saying, is it possible to reuse the authentication token for multiple requests? Yeah, for sure. You can use, so um, if you were here earlier on the stream, we've talked about this Postman Answers workspace. So I'm going to go through it again. So we have this one that shows a few ways to do different things. And I think there's probably one that does oath, if I recall correctly. Set request. Okay, there we go. So this one is, how do I set like a specific, how do I get a specific authorization or like authentication at the collection level? And that's what you're trying to do, right? You want to do something in different requests. So if you're at the collection level, you have this authorization tab. So you see I'm clicking on my collection name. And at the authorization tab, I can set the type to, in this case, it's bearer token, but it could be any of these. And then I set it here, my token. So here I'm using a variable just so it's easier. But you could just put it there directly. And then all of your requests in this collection, in their own authorization tab, you have a type that is called inherit from parent. So what this means is it's going to pull the authorization method from the parent collection. So it's going to go at that level, look at what the authorization tab is, and it's going to be like, okay, that's what I'm using. And that's it. So all you have to do is set it at the collection level, and then all of your requests in this, make sure that that's the default. But just double check that it's using inherit auth from parent, and you can use that. So I'm going to link to this Postman Answers. Actually, it should probably still be there. Mm, yeah. So yeah, if you go there, you can find that collection, the set
Yeah.
bearer token at the collection level for whichever like type of authentication token that you use,
Yeah,
and you
and,
can do
and,
that.
and you also mentioned the use of variables the other time. So you could also like make use of a variable um, to like you said, like the authentication token as a variable and choose what requests you want to use it in and what requests you do not want to use it in.
Yeah. Okay, so that was a quick question. Now let's move back to what we did. A couple of other things. One that is extremely recent, and when I say extremely recent, it's like as of this week, and it's at the top of our blog. It's the API First Transformation book. Um, so we talked a bit about API First in general, like the API lifecycle, API governance when you design, API testing, etc. That book is a pretty thorough book about like how enterprise do it, and that comes from like exchanges between our chief evangelist Kinlane and the different types of partners and companies, etc. So this one is like it's a big book. If you're interested in APIs or if you're interested in the API first, this is going to be extremely relevant. But we also have one that is a bit lighter, and that's so let me send this one to everyone already. Um, wait, we have another one that is a bit lighter, um, and that's accessible already, which is the API first one. So this one is a an online book. It's a how do you call this cartoon or yeah,
Mhm.
like this, which is
It
kind
looks
of
like a
like the
comic.
yeah kind of like the story of an API first world and how like we see the world transforming over time to turn into like fully API. So uh, APIs are already all around you. Your phone is sending like API calls every time. Your PC is sending API calls. Maybe you have a connected watch; it's sending API calls. A lot of things are using APIs already. Um, and this book kind of goes through an explanation of what APIs are, um, and how API first fits into that. So this one is freely available. I'm also going to post the link in the chat for anyone who's interested.
Mhm.
And there we go. Okay,
Then one
so
other thing that we've not talked about is a feature we just recently rolled out, enabling two-factor authentication on your Postman account. So previously that was not possible, but now you can enable two-factor authentication on your Postman account, and it just ensures for extra security on your account. So previously you just input your email and your password, but now you can add an extra layer of security, whereby after inputting your email and password, you need to input an extra one-time password which you can get from an authentication app that you linked to your Postman account. So it could be one password, it could be LastPass, it could be Google Authenticator, or any authenticator of your choice. It just helps ensure that there's an extra layer of security on your account, and you have to have access to your device or your authentication app to log in.
very important. I think the one thing we don't talk about enough on this stream is probably security because we keep on leaking API keys, etc. But it is very important, and 2FA is probably the best way to protect
Mhm.
your account from sorry from just any risk of like people taking over your account or like figuring out your password, etc. And this yeah, so this is brand new and
Yeah.
you can now activate that on your account. So please, yeah, exactly, most awaited one. And we have no spoilers, but we have a few of like very much awaited features that are coming out in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for these. Have a look at the release notes whenever it comes out. Hopefully, we make a few happy users again with the future releases. Okay, so that was a lot. We talked about many things, kind of like all over the place. But if we do a quick rewind of what we talked about the different streams that happened throughout the year, different type of streams, different topics. Then we talked about the different features that have been released throughout the year, and then we kind of looked at cool things that we created. So like books, state of the API, the cartoon for like the API first world, etc. With that, I think that's it for us for this year. That was our last live stream. We'll come back again next year, um, hopefully with fresh ideas, maybe more giveaways. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We have a month to think about it. But hopefully you heard like new people, people that have been following us for a while. You have fun watching us, and you're enjoying your time with us, and you get to learn things about APIs. I think that's the most important thing here. So yeah, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Debo, for joining me for this session as well. Um,
Yeah.
any last words? Any famous last words you want to share before we close the stream? No pressure.
Well, well, I'm just wishing everyone a happy New Year in advance, and see you all next year.
Nice. Cool. Thank you all for joining. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good evening. And see you next year. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.